I'm Alyssa L'Heureux, and welcome to Blasted. I'm from the Valley. I grew up in Chatsworth mostly. I also grew up in like Simi Valley too. My mom and my dad are both from Canoga Park, so we're all Valley raised, which I think is pretty cute. I went to Chatsworth. Oh, it was horrible. I could not pay attention. I just drew all the time. In high school, I always ditched. I never went there. I started drawing when I was little, probably before I could even remember. No one in my immediate family draws, but my grandpa was super creative. Like, he always had a hobby or something, and he pretty much like helped raise me. So I think I got that from him, like always wanted to try something new. Yeah, I had this subscription to this like animal, like this Discovery Channel magazine, and it always came with drawing paper like in the back to like learn how to draw animals. So I started with that. And then my grandpa started buying me books on how to draw like different things. I always wanted to be a tattoo artist. I never actually knew how to do it or like how to apprentice. My mom had posted some of my artwork when I was 18 or 19, and the owner of Think Inc. hit me up, and he was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about, apprenticing or anything like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, but like I didn't know how to do it." So he had me come in, show him my artwork, and he hired me. I was 19, I'm pretty sure, but I was almost 20, so it was like right there. My experience was definitely different. I was kind of just thrown into tattooing. I didn't know a lot about it. My mentor, Christian Haltman, he was the one that kind of gave me structure and like was the one that sat me down and taught me how to tattoo and how to draw and paint. I had to clean tubes every day. It was the most disgusting thing. I had to clean, I had to mop every day. If someone passed out or threw up, like that was my job to clean that up, and it was horrible. But it's definitely humbling, because I feel like a lot of apprentices now, we deal with disposables now, so no one really has to do that anymore. So it's like, it was different for sure. I was the first one in, the last one to leave. I had to be there until everyone was done tattooing, and then I had to clean, and I had another job at the time too, so I would leave my restaurant job and then come there right after and not leave till like 2 a.m. My apprenticeship was only about like a couple weeks to a month. They threw me in really, really fast. Yeah. It was terrifying, yes. My mentor, he's super old school. He is a traditional tattooer. So he sat with me for every tattoo I did and made me build my first machines and everything. So he was like, "You're not going to tattoo unless you build these yourself and know what you're working with." And so he was the one that like really sat me down. He would stop me in the middle of a tattoo if I was doing something wrong, so he really helped me like get that structure and get that teaching in. It was super nerve-wracking. I was super insecure about my tattoos. I did not think I was good enough to do this. Also, like dealing with like multiple personalities, like client-wise, was like super hard to get used to and learn. I took everything really personally. So it was rough in the beginning. It took me probably a year and a half to get comfortable with even tattooing. It was because I worked at a shop where it was all guys tattooing, but the owner's wife was a piercer there, so I did feel comfortable. Like, she gave me that like woman empowerment to be like, you're just as good as these boys. Like, there really is no difference. And if anything, you're more of a hotter commodity because you are a female and you're rarer than like a male tattooer. I was just doing traditional. That was all I was kind of taught. I did black and gray traditional, color traditional, did like the normal like walk-in stuff too, but nothing like that crazy. So I had left that shop and I didn't really know where to go because there was like a rule you couldn't go 15 miles, close to the shop you just worked at. But I was taken in by Droopy over at SoCal Tattoos because I just needed help. And Eric Eckert and him took me in. Eric was the one that actually introduced me, and so they took me in and they taught me a lot. And I really, really, they gave me that like real structure of how to tattoo and like what should be produced and at what level it should be put out. I love them. They're still to this day family to me. You know, I called the owner, Droopy, over there all the time and get advice from him. Eric is like a family friend. The Mason over there is really cool. Like, we have a very tight relationship still. Now I'm at Queens of Needles. I'm in an all-female shop. It's just probably the best environment I've ever been in. It's super different in a good way. Like, everyone that comes in feels really relaxed and comfortable. They feel as if, like, if they are in pain, they can show that. You know, they don't feel shy to ask anything because there's no, like, macho mentality here, which I don't mind either. I like old school shops, you know. It's just, it's a lot softer here. It's a lot, and the work that is produced here is, like, very on par. So when the first Queens of Needles opened in Northridge, they had hit me up, but I had just started at SoCal, so I just couldn't go, and I was already comfortable with where I was at. And so when they opened this one, I was actually not tattooing at all for a few months because I just kind of went through a little phase where I needed a break. And Gusto, over at Gusto Tattoo, he hit me up and he was like, "What are you doing?" You know? And I was just like, "I don't know. I need a home. Like, I'm not sure what I want to do." And he was like, "We just opened this new shop. It's all female." He's like, "I think you would be like a really good fit." And I came here and my boss, Vanessa, interviewed me and I fell in love. After I left the shop that I was going to apprentice at again, I, you know, had given up everything. I gave up tattooing. I wasn't making money. I started working at a little coffee shop and I just got super overwhelmed. And I was just rethinking my career path as an artist and was like, I just needed a break. You know, I didn't know what I wanted. I felt like I wasn't good enough to do this. But when I came here is when they kind of just showed me, like, you have support and you have, like, everything that you can ask for is here. Like, we will help you with whatever you need. So I just needed that little break just to, like, center and reset and make sure, like, this is what I wanted. I was known for doing traditional work or a lot of floral work, but now I've moved more into fine line, like, not necessarily fine line realism, but I'm kind of just making my own thing now. Just doing what I think is cute and fun. Right now, black and gray for sure. I just feel like it sits better on the skin. It can go on anyone. Like, I don't really have a reason to not do black and gray on someone. So I just think it looks really cool. I like the style of it. My tattoos tend to come out a little dark also, so I think it's sick. But my clients that got traditional from me are a little bummed for sure. But, you know, it's just like a new path that I'm taking. I do a lot of pen work. I love clowns. If I could paint a clown every day, I would. It's super fun. But I also love, like, rodeo style and, like, Western styled stuff. So I try and, like, mix the two in and, like, get really fun and weird with it. It's fun. It's way more work than painting something because it takes forever. And to make it look soft is really, really hard. I do a lot of spit shading if I do, like, traditional painting, which is super fun. And I love it. I still paint that way sometimes, but it's just not something I'm into anymore, you know? But the pens drawing is really fun. Right now, I'm using a Cheyenne. It's the only rotary I have right now, but it switches in between a liner and a shader. So it's pretty, like, I can use it for almost anything. I think I'm going to get a Bishop shader next, you know, kind of level up. But I grew up with coils, so transitioning from coil to rotary was kind of tough. The rotary, I get a softer shade. It doesn't hurt the skin as much, I feel like. I can do more with less impact. It does take me longer with a rotary, but I just like the way it looks. It just looks softer and it looks more complete, and it's not super loud. It's not super heavy. Like, my wrist was having issues. So I prefer it now, like 100%. And I think the way you wrap it and everything too, I think it's just a cleaner machine, like sanitary wise. Our supply guy that comes here, I asked him, because I always ask him for advice on, like, what everyone else is buying. And he showed that to me, and he was like, to be honest, he was like, a lot of people are buying this right now, and a lot of people are loving it. And I take his opinion highly, so, because he's been doing that for so long. So I just tried it out, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I like it. Pantera, I'm pretty sure. I just started using it, and I love it. It's like a makeup guru. It's super saturated, and it's super dark, but you can still dilute it to where it's going to be really soft. So I I just started using it, so I can't have like a full opinion, but so far it's really, really sick. Yeah, I use a lot of solid ink for pigments. I used to only use Eternal, but I feel like solid ink has like they're a little bit thinner. So like I feel like they flow into the skin better. I don't have to like work with it so much. But Eternal is like an OG that I always loved, you know? And then Star Bright White only. Yeah, people tend to think our pricing is outrageous. And I think what people don't really understand is how much supplies cost, how much a setup itself for one tattoo is worth. Everything has to be disposed of. The amount of effort we put into drawings, because we don't copy anyone else's stuff. And it's, you know, it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of time. And then we also have to pay our shop, you know, so not everything that you pay us goes to us. So people think like, you know, if you're doing a smaller tattoo and it's $400, but it's fine line realism, it's still going to take 3 hours to do. It may not be the biggest, but the amount of effort that goes in is huge. So I think that's where people kind of need to understand like the amount of work and effort we put into each and every person we tattoo. And just being creative every day is hard. You know, putting out cool stuff every day is rough. Our supply guy comes every week, once a week. I usually buy gloves. My cream that I use to tattoo with, I have to buy that pretty often because I use a lot of that, and it's not cheap. That thing alone is like $50, you know, and so I'm buying that once every 2 weeks. I'm buying needles once every couple weeks. I'm buying inks pretty like, you know, if I see a new color or a new set coming out, like I usually try to use anything I can to see what works best for me. So it's expensive. Machines alone are super expensive. The Cheyenne that I have, I think with taxes and everything, it came out to like a little under $900. So it was expensive. You know, it was a big investment for me at the time because I had just kind of started being like getting more consistent in tattooing. And that was like a really big present to myself. But I spend like, if I'm putting everything together, I spend like $500+ a month for supplies. Like it's every day I'm always like, why am I spending so much money on this? Females understand females. We are a whole different breed than men. So having a female with you and having a whole shop full of females is great. You know, we communicate really well. We are able to see when someone's upset or something, if they just need some space. Like we don't push it. We don't mess with anyone. We're all very respectful of each other's boundaries. Like, but we all are really good friends. Like we're all besties. You know, we can go to a bar together or we can all travel together for conventions and stuff. And it's not awkward and it's not weird. Like it's very, very comfortable. I look up to my boss a lot. She is just super clean and super soft with how she works. She's also just communicates really well with her clients. She's great. Like I look up to her a lot. Our apprentice here does some realism and she's just gotten super good, super fast. So I look at her stuff a lot and I'm really curious how she does some things. I feel like with every girl here, there's something I look at. Like Maddie, she has super, super clean lines, probably the cleanest in the shop. And then Heidi, she just is really creative with her drawings. And Larry's just clean, like, all together. So it's just, like, everyone has something to offer each other, you know? Oh, man. I would love for Matt Pardo to tattoo me. I look at his work so often. I love his work. Juan Tyre is another one. He's just so amazing. And then someone I look up to a lot is Arbel. She is the type of style and like what I want to be. You know, she's so talented. I think I would literally cry if she tattooed me. I want a couple clowns on me because, you know, I'm just a clown girl. And I have some space on the inside where I'm going to have like a really vintage clown standing up. And then my coworker's husband, I'm convincing him to do a big colorful clown head on my leg. So those are kind of my next steps. I also want to work on my chest a little bit more and kind of work up to my neck. Definitely, if you're working somewhere and you feel uncomfortable in any type of way, don't be afraid to like move on to somewhere else. I do think that when you learn an apprenticeship, you should commit to it. But in the beginning stages of an apprenticeship, if you don't feel comfortable, like you don't have to stay. And I think people think they do. And I just don't think I don't think you should do that, especially as a female and if you feel uncomfortable. But I always think if you commit to an apprenticeship, you should finish it. Because there's a lot of growing in that. Even if you do feel uncomfortable, you can work past that and communicate that you are. And if they're not willing to hear that, then yeah, leave. But a lot of people will be willing to work with that. So I think that's really important. I also think that being in an environment where like they care about you is super, super, super important. Like make sure someone is teaching you, make sure someone's taking that time to make sure that everything you're doing is perfect, because there's a lot of apprenticeships where people don't pay attention to you and they just want you there to clean. And it's just like not a good environment to be like that. Yeah, I think, sitting there and just centering yourself and really thinking hard, like, am I willing to commit my life to this? And just when you make that commitment and you say, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to put everything I have into it, it really, really pays off. Like you cannot half-ass this job at all because it shows. It shows when you're not into it at all. It's just your artwork doesn't come out good. You don't love it. So it's going to show. And I think when you fully commit to it and you just say to yourself, like, even through hard times, like, I'm going to use this to humble myself and just get better and learn from it and make better decisions in the future. But it is tough. I mean, this industry has become very saturated, so it's tough to be good. It's a lot of people will say that they're good and they're going to teach you and stuff, but they're not actually, and they're just there to have you, again, like clean and sweep and do mediocre tattoos, I mean, a lot of people tattoo at home now, which is cool. I really don't have like an opinion on that. Everyone starts in their own way. I prefer the old school way, making a portfolio, making flash, making as much artwork as you can in as many styles as you can, and walking in places and showing your face and being like, I want this, I want to show you this. Would you be willing to teach me? I think that shows initiative and that shows balls. Like a lot of people will message you on Instagram and be like, oh, I'm looking for an apprenticeship. And I'm like, too bad. Like if you walked in and said this to me, I would take that seriously. But if you're messaging me on Instagram, I'm like, I'm not going to take you seriously. Just don't see, I think it's lazy, Yeah, I think clients, that whole just showing me a photo thing, it's ridiculous. I'm just like, I can't copy someone else's work. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I have my own style. So I always just tell them, like, I'm going to do the best that I can for you. But, like, you can't expect me to be like a photocopier because I'm not a hyperrealism artist either. But people will think like, oh, you're just a tattoo artist, you can do anything. And it's not true. And I think people have a hard time understanding that. So telling people no is really rough for them. And I think that they need to just be a little bit more patient with us and a little bit more understanding and open to what we have to say, You can always take like stuff like, a lot of traditional artists take like old vintage work and then rework it to be their own, which I think is really cool. But, like, sometimes you'll see people just straight up stealing artwork because they saw it on Instagram. And it's like, you're able to see their work on the Instagram. You could at least message them and ask. Or you can take that concept and just make it different and make it your own. And I think that's okay. I don't know if people are going to agree with me on that, but whatever. But stealing someone's artwork, like, picture for picture, I think is super weird and super lazy. It's just, like, don't do it. Make your own stuff. Like, it's not like, how can you consider yourself an artist if you can't even create your own artwork, Some trends right now, there's a few. The tramp stamp is coming back and it's super sexy and I love it. I think it's so cool. I want the tramp stamp to be everywhere. A lot of women were getting like a Hanya mask right here. A lot of people are just getting straight up neck pieces and just kind of skipping everything else. They're getting a lot of stuff up here and then a lot of stuff on their legs, but they just won't even do their arms. So a lot of stuff is changing because I think people are just getting more out of the box, out of the norm with tattoos. And I'm here for it. I'll tattoo anything on anyone, but besides someone else's work. I mean, I don't know if my stuff is considered very original. Like, a lot of my stuff is from friends and stuff of mine. And they created, like, this arm they created on their own. This was all drawn on by my friend Eric. This is from my mentor. So I'm pretty open with my tattoos. I don't really go in when I get tattooed, like, knowing what I'm getting. I just trust my people, and I'm just like, whatever you want to do that you think will look good on me, like, I'll give you ideas, but, like, I want you to do what you do best. So it's just, like, that's kind of what I like the most. I tattoo this leg myself just because it's, like, kind of, like, fun for me. But, yeah, you know, it's just my artists just do what they want, and I feel like they come out better like that. Fully blasted. I'm still on the fence about my face. I will get, like, the sides done. I don't feel like that's, like, my face. But my actual face, I'm still on the fence about. I'm pretty close to getting my face tattooed, but I think I need to earn more of that first before, like, more tattooing on my body before I go up to my face. Just eat, drink water, have a Gatorade. Like, all we're asking is you eat first. Like, so many people come in and we have, like, a little part that says when's the last time you ate on our paperwork, and people will be like, oh, yesterday at like 4 p.m. and I'm just like, oh, so you want to pass out. Like, you're going to enjoy that. Like, you just want that for yourself. Like, I don't understand why people don't eat. We say it so much, and they come in starving and they wonder why they're on the floor the next second. And I just think it's super frustrating. Yeah, so I work with a lot of sober living clients. Will help them cover up scars or fix tattoos that they're embarrassed with. And I enjoy it, you know. But I had someone come in recently, actually, and he was just, like, the worst. So I had him prepay for the session, and the rest of the money I was like, you don't have to bring till the day of. And he came in on his own and brought it in. A week later, he calls me, and he's like, I need my effing money back. Like, you're super unprofessional, like, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, dude, calm down, first of all. You're not going to get your money back. I didn't ask you to bring the money in, but your session is paid for. I'm like, we can move the date, whatever. But he was texting me, and so I called him, and he was all embarrassed on the phone. So I was like, gotcha. He comes for the session a couple weeks later, and he leaves mid-session, and I had booked the whole day out for him. And he was giving me such a hard time and all this drama beforehand. So I was like, I'm just going to get this done and get this guy out of here. And he came in, he was being super nice. I think he was embarrassed. But he left 2 hours in. And then he took, like, 3 smoke breaks that were, like, 30 minutes, like, each. So I didn't even finish the tattoo. And so I was like, whatever, next weekend we'll do half a day, and we'll bring some of that money that you brought in, like, and we'll continue it, you know, like, whatever. He no-showed me. And I was like, you're never coming in here again. I'm like, all this you put me through, gone. Absolutely gone. And then I had a lady who was getting her first tattoo. This was a few months ago. And she's sitting here getting her very first tattoo, saying how much she loves it. And then she starts talking mad shit about everyone with tattoos and how much she hates them. And I was like, her brother was sitting with her, and he was like, I'm so sorry, you know. And I was just like, what's going on with her? Like, is she okay? Does she know she's getting a piece this big? Like, I was like, this is so odd. I was like, oh, okay, keep your opinions to yourself. Like, there's other people in here, you know. It was really weird. People have some weird stuff to say, but I think it's hilarious, you know. So being a female, I'll get messages sometimes that are like, damn, you're super hot. And then they'll message me a couple weeks later and be like, I want to book an appointment. And I'm like, no, I'm not comfortable with you now. Like, have respect for me as a professional, and I'll give you that respect back. Or if people message me and they're like, yo, what's up, tap me up. And I'm like, no, that's not how that works. Like, talk to me like normal. Tell me what you want. Tell me days you're available. And they're like, oh, you know, I just want, like, whatever, like, duh. And I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this. Like, it's like talking to, like, children sometimes, and I'm just like, no, I don't have time for this. Don't be a pervert, and don't act stupid to try and look cool. Like, there's really no point to it. Like, I'm just not going to respond. Yeah, I've had that a few times. I've actually had a stalker before, and he would just show up to the shop and bring me like food or gifts. And I used to work with him at a restaurant I used to work at, and he just creeped me out to the max. And I had to tell him to never come back. Or like my boss had to handle it, and he was just like, if you come back here, like there's gonna be a problem. Yeah. Don't be a pervert. It's like the number one thing. It's not that hard to do either. Like, no, for sure for some people it is. Like, it's ridiculous. I'm like, you're coming here for a product. You know, you're not coming here to ask me on a date. And I don't date clients, you know, so it's like the worst way, you know. I'm like, even if you are cute, I'm like, now I just hate you. Yeah, people are definitely different these days. I actually think people have gotten a lot better. Like the younger generation that comes and gets tattooed now, they're super respectful and they allow you to get creative like with your work. So I do think it's more of the older generation that, well, because the old school shops were different, you know, there wasn't females a lot of the time also. So it's like the boys thing, and you go in with that like, so bro, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but like then you get weird with me, I'm just gonna ask you to leave. I always text my clients and I'm like, hey, this is how this is gonna go. I need examples, I need references, I need a description of what you want, where you want it size wise, and then what your budget could be, or like days you're available. Like I need all the information in one text, because it's just easier for me, you know, and then it cuts the conversation shorter. We can just schedule you, get you in. A lot of people like to just chat, and like, it's, you know, it's cool, whatever, like we can chat, but it's also like, just get to the point and just tell me what you want and where you want it and how you want it, and then we can just go from there, and we can schedule you and I'll send you a design, you know? Yeah, I take deposits now because people flake, and I thought $50 was a lot for a deposit. But I noticed people can just be like, whatever. And they don't even care if they flake with $50. So now I do 100, and the minimum at this shop's 150. So when they come in, they're like, oh, I'm only spending like $50, you know? So it's cool to do it that way. But yeah, I schedule out a couple weeks ahead of time because I need time to pay attention to the clients I have now, and then have time to draw for them and like give myself that like space and like rest in between everything, you know? I am not cool with drinking. I know some people are. I have tattooed friends late night where like we're drinking and whatever, or they're drinking. Cause I've never drank before while tattooing. I don't think it's safe. I don't think it's safe for people to be drunk. I don't even like when they come in high, because there's just a lot more that can go wrong. And so I'm not about it. Don't come to me when you're messed up. I won't tattoo you. That's just how I am, and what I prefer. I mean, I prefer people to shower, you know, like I don't want to smell you while I'm tattooing you. But like, I mean, I had a dude that went on a run for like a couple miles and wanted me to tattoo his feet after. And I did, and his feet smelled so fucking bad. And then he asked me on a date while I was doing his feet too. And I was like, hey man, I, first of all, just cannot stand you right now. I'm literally going to throw up on your feet. Like, this is the worst experience ever for me. And now you're asking me on a date. I'm like, all the red flags, you know? So, yeah, come showered. Like, we don't want to smell you, you know? Be respectful. But it does happen. If you have to come after work, like, whatever. We sanitize you anyways. It happens. But a lot of time people will prepare me for that. And they're like, hey, I'm running late. I didn't have time to shower. But some people just show up super stinky, and I am not down with it at all. Just be open. Be open to conversation. Be open to some changes. Conversation is key. Communication is key. Just be open. You know, a lot of people come in with like this idea of what they want, and sometimes it just doesn't work, you know, and it's out of our control. Or maybe their skin, something's wrong. There's a scar, or there is some type of rash or a sunburn or something. There's always something that happens sometimes. So like, just be open, be willing to hear us. We want the best for you. Placement's key. Sizing is key. You know, sometimes when you're putting something on a shoulder, it warps. Or if you're putting it on the back of the arm and it's long, it warps. And sometimes what they want just will look weird on that body part. So like, again, like, just be open to us suggesting better things for you, because we just want this to look good, you know, because you're walking around with our artwork and people judge that, you know, so it's like you're our walking, you know, canvases. So it's just like we want you to look good, and it just doesn't work sometimes. Like, you know, it's just be okay with that. You can't get what you want sometimes. It depends. So if I'm doing like a really long session, I'm $150 hourly. But sometimes I'll know the piece and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's gonna be this, and that. Like, my prices are a little low. I don't charge too much just because I'm building a portfolio right now for that new style that I'm doing. So my prices have dropped a little bit, but my clientele has gone up and it's changed. So I'm like stoked about that. Yeah, fine line, black and gray. I'm willing to do some color though. I do like color. When I worked at SoCal Tattoo, my boss, actually kind of everyone there did fine line, and they did traditional also. They had traditional backgrounds, and I just loved the way it looked, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with other artists that do fine line. Like, it was really, really cool, and it's just super different. There's a lot of cool new things you can do with it, so I think it's sick. Yeah, not everyone's skin is made for it. You know, some people have a lot of freckles or a lot of scarring, or their melanin is so heavy in their skin that sometimes it just won't show. So I definitely have to adjust things to make sure it works perfectly per client. But I do my best, you know. You can scar people easier. You can keloid people easier. You can just rip through the skin and like not even deposit ink. So you have to be really delicate with it, which I'm not used to. So I mean, I'm used to it now, but like I was used to using like big fat liners that I would go really slow, and it didn't really matter how hard I was pushing as long as it was going in, versus now like I have to like really notice where I'm going, be very gentle, like, you know, only float on the skin, like, because I can just really screw them up like way easier now. Yeah, so I started with bar needles only, which are a lot different because you have to adjust them a lot, and sometimes not all of the needles in the pack are good, so you always have to check them, or you have to loosen the solder in them. So there's like there's definitely a lot of complications that come with bar needles, but since I've moved to cartridges, they are 10 times easier, and they are manufactured better. I mean, there is bar needles that are manufactured well, but cartridges are way more consistent. They're easier, you know, you just pop them in, pop them out. I can switch through like a lot of different cartridges in the same machine versus me having like 3 machines out and only being able to use like those 3 types of needles. So I definitely have more of a wider range now. It's just cool. Like, I just do some weird stuff and draw whatever I want, and I can get way more detail in there. I take my time. It just looks super cool, and like fine line is in right now. So I just enjoy it. My clients are starting to enjoy it a lot more. I'm getting more requests for it. So it's pretty cool. They're healing good. They're a little dark still. I think I'm going to go a little bit lighter, but I enjoy dark tattoos, but not everyone else does. So I think I'm going to get a little lighter, you know, start using like lighter shading and get softer with it, because I definitely have like traditional tendencies with my fine line. So I'm trying to balance out the two. I mean, if it's done right, it's done right. You know, I think you can make any type of tattoo look bad. You know, if it's not done right, it's going to heal bad. The longevity of it's not going to be good. But that's with anything. But the technology that we have now and the pigments we have now and how well they work now, you can do anything. You know, you don't always need a solid outline. You don't need to make everything just like, you don't have to have this bold thing for it to last. Fine line stays now. You know, the technology we have makes that happen. And people have just gotten 10 times better in the last 5 to 10 years. You know, tattooing is a whole new ball game. So you can pretty much do anything and it'll last. But yeah, you could still mess someone up if it's not done right. My focus right now, because I don't really think about the future too much, I kind of just focus for now. My goal right now is just honing in on my style and honing in on my tattooing and making sure it's perfect. And then, you know, for future stuff, yeah, I would like to own my own shop. I would love that. But that takes time. It takes experience. Like, I have to earn that respect. So I have to just focus for right now and like being in my community and like making sure I put out good product. I would love to tattoo in Europe. There's a lot of really good artists in Europe. And so I would love to go to Europe. I would love to, go to Tokyo and see how traditional tattooing is. Not necessarily tattoo there, but just even see it and like learn something. I would go anywhere. I think any experience like that would be really, really cool. Stop partying so much. It's not worth it. Like, it really hindered my focus a lot. I could have learned a lot faster and gotten a lot better quicker if I would have just focused more. But I was really young, and I was, just dealing with being a young woman. So I don't feel guilty for it, but if I could go back, I would just be like, it's really not worth it. Like, just cut it back. You don't have to stop partying, just cut it back. Be patient. Be super patient. Like, we want to teach you. We want you to be as good as you can. There's a lot of not good artists out there, and a lot of people come in for cover-ups and stuff, and it's sad to see it because they're bummed. Their body feels scarred and ruined, and it really hinders some people. So just be patient, learn. Be willing to take advice, be willing to do the grunt work and sit in even though you're tired or you don't want to be here. Like, it's so worth it. Like, this is the coolest job ever. I don't feel like I work, so the end goal is definitely worth it. And I'm still working towards that even. So yeah, patience, and just don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah, so I suggest during an apprenticeship that you have a second job, because having a schedule and having consistent money coming in, I think, is really important, and it helps you manage your time. I also think like having a 9-to-5, like a little shitty job, is super, super humbling. You have to learn customer service. You have to learn to deal with all types of people. I think it's a great learning experience. I worked a bunch of jobs before I started apprenticing, and I think it helped me a lot with how I deal with people and how I can communicate with people. On Instagram, I am Miss Liss, _tattoos on Instagram, and that's where I answer all of my DMs and schedule appointments. Thank you. Oh my God. I have messed some people up in the beginning of my apprenticeship, but they still support me and they still come to me, and they love their tattoos from when I first started. And I think that's like the best, just the old people just still here, and they never ask for discounts, and they always come in, they always support, or they'll even just check up on me and they'll just be like, your work's looking really good, like blah, blah, blah. And so those are my favorite people, because a lot of my clients that are like that are also my friends, because I get really personal with my clients.